In this week's Torah portion, we learn about the physical and spiritual journey that God tells Abraham to go on. Shalom, my friends. It's the Kiva Gersh with Israel in 5, where we give you everything Israel in 5 minutes. Please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, want to keep the conversation going, please do so below in the comments. This week's Torah portion is called the Lech Lecha, which is the third Torah portion of the entire Torah. And we're introduced to, we start taking a journey with Abraham, and Sarah. We were actually introduced to them at the very, very end of last week's Torah portion, but at the beginning of this week's Torah portion and throughout this Torah portion, we really get to spend time, so to speak, with Abraham and really get to learn more about him. And the very first thing that God says to him, right? Abraham is 75 years old. God has never spoken to him. On his own, Abraham came to the belief in one God, in monotheism, that there's one force behind everything, that there's one God that created everything in a world that was completely polytheistic, right? Everyone was polytheistic in Abraham's world, in Abraham's generation. And yet he came to the truth that there's one force, that there's one God behind everything, behind the sun, the moon, the stars, everything. Jewish tradition teaches even at a very young age, he came to that religious and spiritual epiphany, insight, and belief. And finally, at the age of 75 years, right, almost 75 years of waiting, so to speak, God finally speaks to him. And what does God say to him? Lech Lecha, which means go, get out, move on, leave the place you're in, and go to the land that I will show you. Right? And this is the beginning, the real beginning of Avram's journey in this world. Of course, everything up until then, all those years, all those 75 years, played a huge role in his life, absolutely. But this is the turning point, right? This is a new beginning. This is a new chapter. He's now in contact with God, so to speak, right? God is communicating with him, and God is telling him what to do. God is guiding him, and God is telling him, leave the physical place that you're living in, and go on a physical journey, which will also be a spiritual journey that will take you to the land of Israel. Right? In that land, your journey will continue, and your people's journey will continue. And you will dig roots, you will develop roots in this land. Right? Why did God need Avram to leave at all? Why couldn't he just do his work, his thing, wherever he was? Right? It's a good question. It's an important question to ask. Why couldn't he just stay there and do the great work that Avram was destined to do? Because God was telling Avram that the work that you're destined to do, who you're destined to be, and who your descendants, your people, your nation, the nation that's going to come out of you, who they're destined to be is intertwined intimately, deeply with the land of Israel. Right? The Jewish people, their mission, their vision, the Torah, and the land of Israel are all intertwined. Right? They need to be in this land because there's something about this land spiritually, metaphysically, right, that will help them to become who they're meant to be and do what they're meant to do. Right? Abraham and Sarah, they're the first Jews. They're going on this journey. They're coming to the land of Israel. They're the first ones, the first Jews to come to the land of Israel. Right? And they're paving the way. Right? They're setting the stage for their descendants to come here, to develop their own roots in this land, and to understand that this is the place, this is the small corner of the world that God gave them to do their thing. And it's interesting in the context of so many forces out there throughout the generations, throughout the centuries, including ours today, who are so against the Jews being in their land. Right? What is it? And if we think about it in this kind of context, we can say that they're against our fulfillment of our mission in this world. And what is that fulfillment? Bringing goodness into the world, bringing godliness into the world, right? Bringing fixing and healing to the world. And these forces, we can say, we see them today, they're very, very dark, they're very, very evil. They don't want that. They don't want the world to have that. So what do? They fight the Jews who are in the land of Israel because they know that Jews in the land of Israel is bringing goodness, is bringing fixing to the world. That is directly opposite to the way that they look at the world and the way they live their lives and the way that they want the world to be. Right? It's really on some level, like a very deep level, on a deep level, it's a war of goodness and evil, of light and dark. Right? And we have to be the light. And we know the Jewish people that us being in the land of Israel, this small little piece of land, right? Nothing compared to the Middle East, nothing compared to the world. Yet this is our place. This is the little corner that God gave us in order to do our thing, to be our thing. And we learned that from the journeys of Avram and Sarah in this week's Torah portion, Lech Lecha, right? Which literally means go to you. What does that mean, go to you? It means become yourself. Become yourself. This is the journey of discovery. This is the journey of becoming yourself. of finding out who you are and what you're here to do and what you can do in the world and what hopefully you will do. Right? That's a spiritual journey that Avram was set on by God, right? Which set the stage for his people, for his descendants to go on similar spiritual journeys, right, in their lives, right? To figure out who they are, what they're here to do, what they can do to help the world. Right? All of this is part of the story of this week's Torah portion, Lech Lecha. We're introduced to Abraham and Sarah, two unbelievable, very elevated, very holy, very special individuals who literally changed the world. All the best, my friends, and Shabbat Shalom.